Hey guys, my name is Courtney and welcome to my video. Today's video is going to be a foundation review and wear test of the new Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation. This won't be a first impressions by any means. I have tried this a few times since I've gotten it. I wanted to try it a few times to make sure that I brought you guys a well-rounded opinion about it. If you're interested in seeing my thoughts and opinions on this new foundation, stay tuned. Alright, I got the color 4.5 Warm. And this is one of my first Dior foundations, mainly because of the price point. They tend to be a little bit more expensive, but what interested me in this foundation is the actual shade range. I believe it was 40 shades, and I was more so interested in the fact that each shade had like a subtle difference in undertone, like warm, warm peach, warm olive. You don't see too many brands that really go into depth with their shade range as far as like kind of changing out the subtleties a little bit. So that's why I was so interested in this foundation. So it retails for $40. You get 1.6 fluid ounces. So I'm gonna read off the claims. It says it is a foundation for face and body in 40 shades with a natural matte finish and medium buildable coverage that's waterproof and sweat resistant. So for today's primer, I'm using the Murad Invisiblur Age Reform. This is actually one of my favorite primers because it sort of smooths out pores, smooths out the skin, and it's not like leaving anything sticky. So it's literally a flat base for the foundation to go on top of. The one thing that I didn't like when I first opened it was that literally the top of it was coming out of the top. Now it hasn't done that since, and I store it up like this now, but when I first opened it, that kind of turned me off a little bit, and it could have just been the air sort of build up in it, which is, you know, I can understand that, but that was the one thing when I first opened it that I didn't really like. Look at that. It comes out fairly easy. I'm gonna do a little bitty dab. It's not super liquidy, but it also isn't really thick. I'll do this side beauty blender, this side with a brush so you guys can see the difference. It has like a slight paint-like smell to it. Nothing that's like overpowering, because I'm just now noticing that. I didn't even notice that before. It does say that it recommends a foundation brush. It also says that to get full coverage, it would recommend 3 layers. I don't know if I'm gonna try that out. We'll see. All right, so I'm gonna go back in a little bit more, and I'm gonna do this side with the foundation brush. Alright, so this is what the foundation is looking like. This side I use the brush, this side I use my beauty blender. To me, it is a little bit dewy. That's one thing that I did notice. It is a little bit dewy when you first put it on. Personally, I like the beauty blender side better because it almost sort of balanced out all of that shininess. But I am going to set this foundation. So I'm going to set it with 2 different things. I'm going to set my under eye with the Peach Perfect. So this is going to be what I'm going to use with my concealer. And then I'm going to set the rest of my face with Derma Blend in Warm Saffron. Off the bat, the side that I use the beauty blender on is not as sticky as the side that I use the brush on. In general, I like to use a beauty blender a little bit better because to me it just smooths out foundations a little bit better. I tend to use a brush for maybe stick foundations and stuff like that. I'm not mad at either side, but I do like the beauty blender a little bit better. I do like the healthy skin look that it is giving me, and it doesn't feel heavy on my face, so I do enjoy that as well. I think if I just wanted to do a light face of makeup, I think this would be a perfect base for that. This is pretty much a matte face, so all of the shine that you see is from the highlighter. I haven't put my setting spray or anything else on yet. I just wanted to show you guys that like once everything is all set, it is completely matte. and it is not transferring. Everything is good and set. I wanted to show you guys that before I put my final touches on. So what I usually like to do, since I like a little bit of a dewier look to my foundation, I use the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder, and I use the Radiant Light in conjunction with my setting spray, which sort of gives it more of a dewy finish without it actually feeling dewy. And so I'm going to put that under my eye. And it sort of softens everything up a little bit more. And like I said, it'll give the illusion of a little bit more shine and radiance without it necessarily feeling like oil. And then I'm going to use my Urban Decay All Nighter. So this is my final face. Oh, let me take this out. Did it say up to how many hours that this was wearable? Let's see. Let's take a look. So it doesn't say necessarily 12-hour wear or 13-hour wear or anything, which I think is very smart. A lot of companies will say, 12-hour, 13-hour, whatever, 8-hour, 13-hour. A lot of companies will do that and then sort of shoot themselves in the foot if they can't live up to that. But since this doesn't say it, we'll just see how long it can last. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and wear this for the rest of the day. We're gonna see how long it lasts. I'll do a check-in a little bit later, and then I'll give my final thoughts. All right, guys, I am back, and this is what my face is looking like. So I had a few thoughts that I wanted to share with you guys before I close out. Like I said, I did try this foundation a few different ways. First few times I used it, I tried it with the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. And then today I used the Age Reform from Murad, the Invisibler. Both of these worked really, really well with this foundation. This one tends to dry down a little bit more than the Tatcha Silk Canvas. The Tatcha Silk Canvas moisturizes. Both of them do a really good job blurring, but I feel like this one dries down and this one doesn't really. All of the other products that I used on top of my face, every time that I used it, worked really, really well in conjunction. I didn't have any blotchiness or any problems with anything sticking to the foundation. As far as the claims go, I do believe that it is a medium to full coverage and it is buildable. I didn't have to build it to the 3 layers that they recommended, but to me, I don't feel this on my face, and I would maybe, for a fuller coverage, if I wanted, maybe do 2 full layers in order to get a full face, but I was okay with just the 1 layer. When I first put it on, it was very, very dewy when it was still wet, and then when it dried, it was still very shiny. Not greasy or oily looking, but it was still very shiny. I did have to set this foundation. It's been about 8 hours, and my oils aren't coming through too bad. I would say that if you have oily skin, I would make sure you use a mattifying primer and set this foundation, only because had I not have set it with the mattifying powders, I don't know what it would be like without that. In my everyday makeup routine, I choose to set my foundation, so that's just a part of what I do. If it's not something that you guys do, I don't know that I would recommend this foundation. It may become a little bit oily. I wouldn't say that this foundation is suitable for all skin types. Like I said, if you have oily skin, I would be wary. I think if you set it, you'll be fine. I would not only set it, but I would use maybe a beauty blender. Maybe do 1 to 2 layers, use a mattifying primer as well, and I think you'll be good to go. But if that's just something that you're not used to doing in your everyday routine, then I would suggest maybe not so much for oily skin. As far as the pros with this foundation, I really, 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 really like the finish. I tend to have a drier skin, depending on what my skin feels like doing that day. I tend to have a little bit of a drier skin, so usually one thing that I really like about foundations, if throughout the day they get a little less foundation-y, if that makes sense. One of my favorite foundations is the Becca 24 Hour Full Coverage, I think that's the name of it. And then the NARS Natural Radiant. Those are good examples of a foundation that isn't necessarily completely dry matte throughout the day. It sort of lets your skin breathe a little bit more, if that makes sense. And I enjoy that, me being a dry girl. dry skin girl. Me being more dry skin, I appreciate that in a foundation, that it has the balance of not being too oily and being able to still show your radiance. Another thing that I liked about it was the shade. Originally I got, let's see, this one is the shade 4.5. So originally I got the shade 4.0 warm. I read the reviews and it said that this darkened up a little bit. So I got a shade lighter than this one, thinking that that would be the shade and then it would get darker. However, when I got it, it was a little bit too light. So I went ahead and got the 4.5 warm, which this one does dry down a little bit darker, but I don't mind that for a few reasons. One being that it's the summer and I'm getting tan every time I go outside. But two, because I tend to brighten and contour and do all of that other stuff, I would prefer my foundation to be darker by a hair than to be too light. I can't make lighter foundations necessarily work for me. I can make a darker foundation work. Does that make sense? Yeah. But I do love the way that they did their shade range. I love the way that they brought in the warm with the peach, the neutral with the, you know what I mean? Like the subtle nuances that people need. I love that they did that. It does last a long time and it feels nice. However, the one thing that I will say with the times that I did wear it, it will sink into your fine lines just a tad. I don't expect a whole lot from my foundations when it comes to my smile lines, mainly because with or without makeup or foundation or anything, those smile lines are still there. What I judge my foundation by is if it literally cakes up into those creases. You can see my smile lines and they're there, but it's nothing that would deter me from getting this or using this again. By the way, never mind this like bluish almost mustache thing. That's not the foundation. I was trying on some lip colors earlier, some different lip swatches, and that's what that is. I had to wipe off a little bit. It did say that it was, I want to say, sweat proof and waterproof, which I agree with. I went swimming a little bit earlier. I got water on my face, got splashed in my eye a little bit, and it didn't go anywhere. There's no like water driplets or anything. So I would say that it is waterproof. However, I wouldn't say necessarily transfer resistant. If I touch my face right now, that's definitely, you can definitely see it on my hand. Now, in order to combat that, I could just try dabbing again. Shall we? And she is good as new. Ooh. See? So for my first Dior purchase, I'm actually really excited about this. This will get more use out of me. I'm very happy with this purchase, very happy with the color. You know, like I said, I just powdered it and we're as good as new. So I would definitely recommend this. I would definitely put this in like my top 10 favorite foundations. Top 5? I'd say like top 8. Alright guys, that about does it for me. Hopefully this video was helpful. If so, please give me a thumbs up. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.